y'all, I'm out in the garden this morning. I am going to be planting some bulbs and figured I would turn on the camera and take you guys along with me while I did that and sort of talk through a bit of a shift that's taking place here in our garden and what I am beginning to focus on and what the plans are for the spring and the summer. So I talked briefly in one of my last videos about the fact that I'm going to be focusing more on flowers and a little bit less on home gardening as far as vegetables and fruit goes. We're keeping our orchard. We will do a little bit of fruit and veg like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, all of that. But I am shifting my focus to try to begin farming flowers for local bouquet making events, a mobile bouquet bar, bouquets at our farm stand, and maybe some on-farm events as I learn how to grow these flowers and all the things that I need to know about making this come to fruition. So right now what that looks like for me is reserving a portion of the garden for my first spring planting, and also going ahead and overwintering some of those flowers that I would like to have as soon as springtime hits. And so I have started a few things in the greenhouse, and I do have some bulbs planted out in the beds from last year, and we're just going to continue to slowly build upon that. And one of the reasons that we are looking at flowers is the realization for both of us, and for me specifically, that it's not necessarily the tomatoes that keep me in the garden. I really just enjoy growing, and so we wanted to find something that would work for our family as far as something that we could see ourselves being able to eventually scale up. And that requires time and finances and hands. And this is something that could be an attainable possibility for us. So I am just gonna dip my toes in and we're gonna see what happens. All right, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's take a look at what we're gonna be planting today. The first thing that I have are daffodils, and compared to a lot of other really big flower farms, this is absolutely nothing at all. But this is enough to get us started and sort of test the waters with this. So we're gonna be, I have some bulbs that are in some of these other beds from last year, and I'm kind of just pulling them up and transplanting them all to one bed specifically for daffodils as I see them popping up all over the place. I think I'm gonna separate my irises and put those in a different space, and that'll just kind of take some time, and I kind of just have to wait for the irises from last year to sort of pop up here and there so that I can separate everything out. But I'm hoping to keep all of the flower groups together so that it's easier when I'm going through to harvest and make my cuts and having to divide them into specific buckets. I think it'll be easier to just have everything together versus an iris here, a daffodil there, sort of thing. So I'm gonna start with daffodils. These are supposed to be about 6 inches down, 6 to 8 inches apart. I'm not going to measure that, and we'll see what happens. Okay, here's the bed that I'm gonna be planting in. This bed has a really thick layer of wood mulch on top of it. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to take all of this mulch off, plant the bulbs, and then I'll throw the mulch back on top. This was kind of like, I have some beds that were just a catch-all for the last of the wood mulch that we had in an attempt to get it out of the way over there on the private road. So I'm gonna take some of this mulch off, plant the bulbs, and just add the mulch back on top of it, and I will set you guys up on a time lapse so you can take a look. All right, so here's the bed currently. We already have some sprouting there in the back with some irises or daffodils. I think those, I don't even want to take a guess. I have no idea just yet. They kind of look similar when they're first starting out, but this is the bed, and I'm gonna go ahead and get this mulch off. All right, so you can see that I've cleaned most of that really thick layer of wood mulch off the top. There is still some mulch, but I don't have 3 or 4 inches of it. Now in the back here, I didn't really try to take out the wood chips because I've already planted a little bit of that back section and I've got some things coming up already. But what I'm gonna do is go ahead and lay these bulbs out and see how they fit in this bed, and then we will go ahead and get them covered. All right, so this is just a tall mix. Oh, these are my irises. Whoop. All right, saving these for the next bed. These are my daffodils. And this is just a mixed bunch. I'm gonna open that. I'm just gonna place them where I think I would like them to be, with the pointy side up, roots down. I'm gonna plant them probably a little bit closer than 6 inches, just because I'm going to push the mark on that. So I think that they will be fine. They just might need to be dug and divided a little bit sooner than your typical like 3 to 5 years. And I think we actually have about 100 more bulbs on the way for planting. So this is kind of just like round 1. All right, so here is my layout and spacing so far. This bed isn't completely full, and like I said, we've got at least another 100 bulbs on the way. So what I'm gonna do is kind of just draw a line, maybe like right down here. It's not straight. And when I add my mulch back in, I'll go ahead and mulch what I've planted, and I will leave this other side open until I get that planted, and then mulch the rest of it. While I want this to be primarily daffodils, once I get everything sorted out, there may be irises in here right now from last year, but I'll get that sorted out. Oops, upside down. So roots touching the soil, pointy end up is what you want. So let's get these covered. All right, so this bed is nearly done. One of the last things, or you could do it at the very beginning if you want, that you want to make sure to have, and I'm really bad about this, is a label so you remember what you planted when it was planted. So I've got my label here. Just gonna add it to my box, and that's it for that bulb planting. So I will take you guys around and show you what else is going on in the garden right now. If you are here for growing food content, we will still have some of that going on. Like I said, we still have all of our fruit trees and the orchard part of our garden, and I don't think that I could not grow some cucumbers and tomatoes and herbs and stuff like that. So there will be some of that, just not an entire garden full. This is a pretty big garden too. Here is one of our in-ground beds that I direct seeded with Bells of Ireland on the far side. In the middle, we had poppies, and on the end, I actually came back a couple of days ago and stuck some bachelor buttons out here. I'm in the process of learning flowers and learning about flowers. So what gets planted when, whether it needs to be transplanted or direct seeded. It's not something that I've done before. So these things have been direct seeded. The first round of poppies that I sowed in the middle of this bed did not germinate. I'm thinking it was probably entirely too hot still, but we did have some success with our Bells of Ireland coming up here. And so I'm going to attempt to overwinter these, get some more germinated, and we'll see what happens in the spring. They will probably remain short and squatty until it warms up in the spring. And then they will hopefully take off at that point. So that's this in-ground bed here. Flowers. Over here, this is where we started our onions and chives. And so we've got our chives right here on the end, onions coming up in the middle right there. And then on the side, those are actually Cresspedia flowers from last spring. I got a few here and there, but I'm thinking they're going to do better this year, and it appears that they are frost hardy. So I'm just leaving them, letting them do their thing, and in the meantime we'll grow some onions in the middle. Our lettuce is making a comeback here on the edge. Our broccoli is taking off, aside from my 3-year-old taking the broccoli leaves and eating them. So that's what that's about right there. But the rest of these plants are looking really good. I think I have figured out that this is actually straw flower that germinated, and I'm gonna need a lot of that. So I'm leaving those. I'm gonna see how they overwinter, and that will actually tell me a lot about the frost hardiness of the plant, and if I can sow those late fall, if they will make it through our winter. All of this that you see, you know, down under these brassicas right now was self-seeded, self-sown from flowers that dropped seed and died over the summer. So I didn't put any of that there, and if it's something that will just continuously come back, that would be really nice. So that's what's under there, and that's why I haven't bothered to remove it. And our red romaine is still looking great. I actually picked from this last night for dinner, so that's why it's a bit sparse. All right, we took a look at this bed in a couple of our videos. This was our bed that was seeded with our sweet peas, bok choy, and something that was supposed to be like Napa cabbage. And so that's what we've got here. Our sweet peas have found the trellis. They're hanging off just a little bit, but maybe they'll grab on. Sully loves the peas too, so He's been enjoying those. Again, I think that's something that will really take off in this spring. My plan for that is to leave some edible sweet peas and then plant some for our cutting garden. And I've also got our pelleted carrots have germinated that we threw in this bed. So that's what we see right here too. Some bok choy, and as usual, fire ants still everywhere, but these greens look really great. All right, here is our other in-ground bed. So let's see. Right here is Rudbeckia, and then we've got another couple of rows of Rudbeckia right there. Those were sown over the summer. They're extremely slow growing, but they seem to be frost hardy. So again, that's just something I'm going to overwinter for now. And then on the end right here, we've got little calendula plants. And you can see down there some zinnias that died back with our frost, but the calendula is frost hardy. So that's what I've got going as far as flowers in this second in-ground no-dig bed. This is one of our raised beds that had lots of dahlias and flowers over the summer. As you can see, the dahlias have died back with the frost, but some of our bulbs from last spring have started to emerge from underneath the mulch. And so what I'm going to be doing here is just coming in, cutting back some of this top growth on these dahlias. I'm leaving the tubers because our ground doesn't freeze here in the low country of South Carolina. Rarely ever. So I am thinking that my tubers will be fine to overwinter in these beds. I've tried to condense my dahlias down to a few beds, and right now I am right at 3. So I don't think I can condense it any more than that at the moment, and I'll probably end up with more dahlia tubers, but we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it. So for now, I'm going to be coming in, and once I get rid of these dead dahlia tops, I will sort out these bulbs and get them moved across the garden to the bed we just planted with daffodils, or to another bed that this is Bermuda grass, or to another bed that I plan to have for the irises. But you can see we've got one there, here, a couple here, some over there. So that'll be a task that I need to get done fairly soon. Here we've got another bed of brassicas. I believe this is cauliflower, and we came back and broadcasted some carrots along the bottom. And so let's see, here are carrots coming up in this bed, and we'll harvest those in the springtime. I'm usually not in a big rush to harvest my carrots or broccoli or anything like that, but now that I have to figure out the rotation of my succession planting, I will probably be pulling this stuff as soon as it's ready. I won't be letting it go to seed or waiting for a lot of the little side shoots, which is definitely an option if you're just not in a rush for space, or you don't need to plant a second round of anything. Got some parsley here on the end of this bed. Planted that this summer, and I honestly don't pull from it often, but it's frost hardy, so I just leave it and pull from it as needed. Now here, I just spotted what I think is ranunculus coming up again from last spring. And what I've been doing as I see these come up, they're not very frost hardy at all. So I've been digging these corums up. Look at that. Ranunculus corum. So I'll take that to the greenhouse. And let's see if we have another one. Here we are. And another very little ranunculus corum. So I'll take these to the greenhouse and I'll show you where I've got all of the ranunculus growing right now. So down here, whoops, let's see if I can move this, is where we have all of our pre-sprouted ranunculus. It's not frost hardy, so as I find it and as it comes in with my orders, I just pull it out of the garden and tuck it in here so that I don't have to worry about it freezing. And that's that. Archer has been tending to his garden a bit more now that it's not 100 degrees outside and there's no gnats or mosquitoes. So he's planted some broccoli, some strawberry, some cilantro, which he likes just a very, very little bit of on his tacos. So he's got some of that in his garden, and then he's still got some lettuce and some peas over there in his raised beds. All right, this back row here is starting to take off a bit. We've got our cabbages, let's see, in this yellow box right here. Savoy cabbages have always done well for me here in the low country of South Carolina. I don't have as much luck with red cabbages, but I do have a couple of those planted this year, so we'll see what happens. My plan for that would just be to pickle it for tacos and stuff like that. But our cabbages and onions are doing well in this bed. The Bermuda grass, it's not going anywhere. We've had frosts. It doesn't ever get, you know, down into the teens or 20s often here. So I'm assuming I'll probably be fighting with Bermuda year round, which is not fun, but it is what it is. Over here, we have our garlic. I did throw some gladiolus in the back of this bed. They were bulbs that I left out way too long. I'm not sure if anything will come of it, but those actually bloom in the summertime, so I'll just have to wait and see. But as of now, the garlic looks great. This is garlic that I saved from our harvest last spring and just planted out again this year. All right, and this is the last bed I'm going to show you guys today. My broccolis. Sully has eaten a lot of my broccoli plants. I also had my ducks in here for a little bit, trying to figure out how I can incorporate them into the garden, but they can definitely reach like the front half of all of my beds, and I am not willing to lose half of what I'm growing for a handful of duck eggs. So yeah, they're not in the garden anymore at this moment. If pest pressure is ever really high, I might consider bringing them back in, but for now, they're just here helping add to the biodiversity and keeping our pond from being completely stagnant. So I have to take that as a win. But in this bed, I do still have some arugula that's doing pretty well in the back because they couldn't reach it. And we have a couple of peas that are climbing the trellis. And we have pulled from these peas. That doesn't look so great. We've pulled from these here and there, been snacking, but nothing to get a really big harvest off of right now. I grew peas before and I said I wouldn't again, but I'm growing them because Sullivan likes to snack on them. The last time I grew them, they kind of, you know, petered along all winter and then really exploded in the spring. And our spring here is fairly quick as far as going from cool to hot. There's not a whole lot of in between. And with us putting flowers in, I'm not sure we'll get a whole lot of peas, but we'll leave them for now. Alrighty guys, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for some beautiful flowers come spring. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.